Jai. 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 Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Today's reading is from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 8, Chapter 4, Text 1. The chapter is entitled, Gajendra Returns to the Spiritual World. Shri Sukha Uvacha Tada Devarshi Gandharva Brahmeshana Purogamaha Mumuchu Kushumasharam Samshanta Karma Tand Dare Shri Sukha Vacha Tada Devashi Gandharva Brahmeshana Purogamaha Mumuchu Kushumasharam Shamshanta Karma Tandare Shri Sukha Vacha Tada Devashi Gandharva Brahmeshana Purugamaha Mumuchu Kushumasharam Shamshanta Karmadar Tadare Shri Sukha Vacha Tada Devashi Gandharva Brahmeshana Purugamaha Mumuchu Kushum Masharam Shamshanta Karmatandare. Prabhus. Shri Sukha Vacha Taddevashi Gandharva Mumuchu Kushumasharam Kamsata Kamakadare Shri Sukha Vacha Taddevashi Gandharva Brahmeshana Purugama Mumuchu Kushumasharam Samsanta Karmatadare Shri Sukha Vacha Taddevashi Gandharva Brahmeshana Purogama Mumuchu Kushumasharam Samshanta Karmatadare Shri Sukha Vacha Tadadavashi Gandharva Dmamishanag Purogamaha Mumuchu Kushumasharam Shamshanta Karmatadare. God, sisters. Taddevashi Gandharva Prameshana Purogamaha Mumuchu Kushumasharam Shamshanta Karmatadare. Taddevashi Gandharva Prameshana Purogamaha Mumuchu Kushumasharam Samsanta Karmatadare. Shri Sukha Vacha Taddevashi Gandharva Prameshana Purogamaha Mumuchu Kushumasharam Samshanta Karmatadare. Shri Sukha Uvacha. Shri Sukadeva Goswami said, Tada, at that time, when Gajendra was delivered, Deva Rishi Gandharva, the demigods, sages, and Gandharvas, Brahma Ishana Purogamaha, headed by Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, Mumuchu, showered, Kushuma Asharam, a covering of flowers, Shamshanta, while praising, Karma, transcendental activity, Tat, that, Gajendra Mokshana, Hari, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Shri Sukadeva Goswami said, when the Lord delivered Gajendra, king of the elephants, all the demigods, sages, and Gandharvas, headed by Brahma and Shiva, praised this activity of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and showered flowers upon both the Lord and Gajendra. Purport. It is evident from this chapter that great sages like Devala Rishi, Narada Muni, and Agastya Muni will sometimes curse someone. The curse of such a personality, however, is in fact a benediction. Both the crocodile, who had been a Gandharva in his previous life, and Gajendra, who had been a king named Indradyumna, were cursed. But both of them benefited. Indradyumna, in his birth as an elephant, attained salvation and became a personal associate of the Lord in Vaikuntha. And the crocodile regained his status as a Gandharva. We find evidence in many places that the curse of a great saint or devotee is not a curse, but a benediction. Jnanamagina Timarandasya Ganagana Salakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupa Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharini Nirvisesa Sunyavari Pasacha Desatarini Vanshakalpaturubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So, before I begin class, I just want to thank the devotees and thank Krishna for the opportunity to speak a little bit about Srimad Bhagavatam in the presence of so many wonderful devotees, including my good husband who, without his great mercy and spending so many days listening to Srila Prabhupada on tapes, we probably would never have come back again to the association of devotees. So I'm very grateful to be here and in your wonderful association. I just hope that the few words I can say will be a little bit inspiring to you. So this pastime of Gajendra's terrible predicament and unconditional surrender has actually always been one of my personal favorites. The first time I read this pastime, I remember I was amazed at the verse which describes how Gajendra fought the crocodile for 1,000 years. Elephants don't live for 1,000 years, at least on the Earth planet. But so obviously these were not an ordinary 1,000 years. These were demigod 1,000 years. So even more impressive. So much strength, and so much determination to remain alive. Materially, of course, this is a very praiseworthy quality. A hero does not give up fighting for his life, and this is praised in human society. In Krishna consciousness, we actually praise personalities like Haridas Thakur, who didn't care if he lived or died when he was beaten in the 22 marketplaces. Not even because he was so detached from living or dying, but because he was so absorbed in chanting the holy name that living or dying wasn't even an issue. Remembering Krishna was actually his only concern. He actually had compassion for his executioners. He was afraid they would be killed if he didn't die. So ultimately he thought it was best to at least go into a state of complete samadhi so he would at least appear dead for their sake. But here we're talking about Gajendra's fierce determination to stay alive at all costs. If there were newspaper headlines about this today, it would read, "For 1,000 years, elephant has been fighting for his life with fierce monster crocodile. No one able to help him, but he fights on. And we hear often expressions like, he fought cancer to the end until he just couldn't. She wouldn't give up no matter what, fought for dear life. At this point, I was brought to mind as a well-known American politician right now. He's actually even respected by a lot of people, unlike many politicians. He fought in the Vietnam War. He was taken a prisoner of war for many long years, by our calculation. Now in his golden years, he's become seriously ill with cancer. After a short time off his duties for cancer treatment, he's back to his duties, serving his country, fighting the cancer, fighting for his life. So back to Gajendra. Gajendra fought for 1,000 years. He is the epitome of one poet's challenge. Death, be not proud. I will not go quietly into the long dark night. Gajendra also was not going quietly into the jaws of death. The sounds of this battle reverberated beyond the shores of the lake in beautiful Ritumat garden. A valiant battle, but so much pain for so long. I could never have tolerated pain for that long. That was my first reaction when I read this story. But in looking at this story again, I realized that actually this is me. It's probably a lot of us. We're actually in the same predicament. Suffering every day, my mind, my body, bugs that bite my skin and leave big red itchy welts, too much cold, way too much heat, not enough sleep. You know the list, it goes on and on and on. Big miseries and small miseries. Cumulatively, life after life, we've been suffering this. It amounts to being trapped in the mouth of a very large crocodile, just exactly like Gajendra was. But in a few moments, it's just happening between yesterday and today. Big reversal, a genuine reversal of fortune, from total despair to absolute unconditional deliverance, not just from the jaws of the crocodile, deliverance from the clutches of the entire material energy, deliverance from the greatest curse, identification with the false ego, and forgetfulness of one's eternal, blissful, loving relationship with Krishna. This verse now describes a joyous celebration, a festival. The demigods headed by Lord Brahma came. They arrived with Lord Vishnu to praise the activity of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, rejoice in Gajendra's surrender and deliverance. Flowers were coming from the heavens. What happened? If I had just come upon this scene right at that moment, I would never have believed how desperate the situation was. For 1,000 years, this elephant was fighting for his life. It was a great, horrible, bloody battle. Life and death. Now the demigods are showering flowers. Lord Vishnu and two beautiful beings are standing there. One of them even looks like Lord Vishnu. Actually, what did happen is truly amazing. Instead of challenging death not to be proud, an elephant just surrendered utterly and completely to the Lord. An elephant. From within, Gajendra realized the futility of his struggle. And by the mercy of the Lord, he remembered. You know, they say elephants have a good memory. Maybe it comes from this story. Maybe it's like a perverted reflection or something. I don't know, but I thought of that when I was getting the class ready. So he remembered, and he recited beautiful prayers acknowledging his identity as an eternal servant of Krishna, acknowledging the opulence, beauty, and mercy and supremacy of the Supreme Lord. He offers a flower. It wasn't just an ordinary flower. It wasn't a scrubby little cactus flower. It was a lotus flower. But nonetheless, it was a simple flower. And then, poof, I can't snap my fingers very well, but that was it. 1,000 years of pain and struggle, and Lord Vishnu cuts through all the illusion, all the pain, and Gajendra is standing there in his spiritual body, eternal, full of knowledge and bliss. Simultaneously, the Lord cuts off the head of the crocodile and liberates him, at least from his present misery. The crocodile wasn't as fortunate, though, although at that time he was probably feeling pretty good. He had his demigod body back. His associates were showering him with flowers. However, he didn't surrender to Krishna. Not right then, anyway. Why should he? He thought that he was winning this battle. So his condition, though better materially, is actually very precarious. At any moment, who knows what can happen? Padam padam yadvi padam natesham. Danger at every step. The biggest danger, of course, is forgetting Krishna. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, in all our scriptures, in so many varieties of ways, Krishna delivers his devotees from the jaws of the material energy. Some of you might remember that movie Jaws, where the shark is in the water and no one knows, and kind of a Gajendra moment, And everyone, really, it's a very frightening movie. It's no like big monsters, weird-looking monsters, but we have a very real situation that most people can really identify with. Yes, at any moment, death can come, and I'm helpless. Except if, like Gajendra, we can humbly admit our terrible predicament and surrender ourselves to Krishna. Then, as Mother Yamuna so often describes in her biography, we have one of those magical Krishna moments, from total despair to spiritual joy. We have many examples of this. Prahlad, his unconditional faith and dependence on Krishna, and then a great roar from the pillar. We know what happened there. We have Mukunda Datta's, I think it was Mukunda Datta, anyway, joyful acceptance of what amounts to a curse by Lord Chaitanya. He would have to take millions of births before he could get the Lord's association. Seconds later, when Lord Chaitanya heard that he was accepting this curse as a blessing, Lord Chaitanya gave his darshan. So where does that leave me? I'm not Prahlad, I'm not Mukunda Datta. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada reminds us that the curse of a saintly person is actually a blessing. Most of us could safely say that we have not been privileged to be cursed by a great devotee. But actually, maybe we have been. Maybe this is why we're here. Hopefully, Srila Prabhupada has cursed all of us to find no comfort in the material world. So many devotees, probably most of us, came to Krishna consciousness burnt out one way or the other. No matter how much we tried, we just couldn't find any pleasure, no safe haven in the material world. So many people seem to be able to find that safe haven. Most devotees, we were cursed. We couldn't find it. So, in despair, when we came in contact with the devotees, with our spiritual master, we were ready to at least begin the process of surrender. Of course, we can't even begin to compare ourselves to such great souls as Gajendra. But we do also have experiences of how even an attempt at surrender, as imperfect and impure as it might be, gives us a glimpse of liberation from the jaws of Maya and a little taste of complete surrender. In thinking about this, I thought of my own story of coming to Krishna consciousness. My situation was pretty desperate. Materially, I didn't have very much left to live for, even though I lived in the capital of sense gratification, New York City. I was very young, but I was pretty burnt out from I was a pretty burnt out remnant of the hippie phenomena. Too much mind expansion, which was probably not expansion, it was probably too much mind shrinking. And my brain was so rattled and confused I could barely read the simplest of books. A dense, dark cloud of despair followed me at every step. And then I walked into the temple on Henry Street in Brooklyn, and beautiful Radha Govinda were there. And right in front of the altar, I can still see the lettering. When I see that lettering, sometimes my heart beats a little faster because I remember. And there was the Maha Mantra, right there. And I started chanting, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. And I chanted and chanted and chanted, and I remembered. As miserable as I felt, I remembered chanting with the devotees in 1967 in Tompkins Square Park. I was not very happy then either, actually. And I remembered feeling very peaceful, very, very peaceful. So I continued chanting, and I chanted and chanted. I don't know for how long I chanted, and then finally I had to go. And I realized as I was walking out of the temple room, I realized how peaceful I felt, how wonderful I felt. This was a very strange sensation for me. And I went out into the book room, the guest reception room, and I picked up Perfection of Yoga and I started reading it. And really and truly, I'm not exaggerating, I really couldn't hardly read at this point. And I read a whole page, and I read 2 pages. And I read that Srila Prabhupada wrote, I don't have to identify with my mind and my body. It's not real. And I thought, that was poof. That wonderful moment. And then I knew that I wasn't going to be suffering like I had for so many years. So, we've all had these moments in our Krishna consciousness. This pastime must give us great hope that if we stay with this process of surrendering to the spiritual master, who cuts the knot binding us to this material world, just like Lord Vishnu cut the head of the crocodile, we will be blessed with the Supreme Lord finally ending this terrible and since time immemorial predicament that we are in. Krishna promises in Bhagavad Gita, I carry what they lack and preserve what they have. So we just have to persevere, and Krishna will preserve. There's a little play on words there, very similar. This is how the Lord delivered Gajendra. For 1,000 years, he was not thinking of surrendering to Lord Vishnu. He was thinking of how to get his foot out of the crocodile's mouth, how much it hurt, and that this was a very humiliating circumstance for such a great personality as himself, the king of the elephants. Finally, materially exhausted in total despair, he had a thought. Like a good elephant, he remembered, I should take shelter of Krishna. Just that thought, born of material despair, that one step toward Krishna, made him eligible to be the recipient of great mercy. In chapter 3, the beginning verse, it says, the king of the elephants, Gajendra, fixed his mind in his heart, chanted a mantra which he had learned in a previous birth as Indradumna, and which he remembered by the grace of Krishna. Through the mercy of our spiritual master, that grace is there for us. Though to become a recipient of that special grace cannot be taken cheaply, we must not think that that special grace will not be there and is not there at this actual moment. So today, I have the great fortune of giving a class on, where's my notes? Here we are. On the festival of Udana Shasti. And so to prepare for this, I read the story. There's a couple of stories about Pundarik Vijayanidhi, very exalted devotee, who was completely devoid of pride, false ego. Gadadhar Pandit was actually instructed by Lord Chaitanya to take a second initiation from him. And this was in Navadvip. And right around that time, Pundarik Vijayanidhi came to Navadvip, and he didn't want anyone to know who he really was. So he covered himself, he kind of created an illusion around himself. Very interesting, this illusion, this Maya, this illusion that Maya can create. She can create an illusion so we forget Krishna, and she can create an illusion so we can remember Krishna, surrender to Krishna more. So Pundarik Vijayanidhi, by all appearances, he was a materialist and a sense enjoyer. When Gadadhar Pandit was taken by Mukunda to go and visit this great devotee, and he walked in, and there was Pundarik Vijayanidhi laying on an asana with pillows and opulent cloth, and he was being fanned, and there was evidence of chewing betel nut that had been spit on the mirror that was next to him. Can you imagine Gadadhar Pandit walks in and sees this scene? Incredible moment. I can't imagine if we had walked in and seen our spiritual master in this condition, would we have been able to see through? So he was a little taken aback. But Mukunda saved the day. He recited a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam describing how Putana, who came to kill Krishna, actually was liberated by Krishna because of that simple act, even though it was not done with proper consciousness in a demoniac mentality. That simple act of offering her breast milk to Krishna, she was saved. upon hearing that, Pundarik Vijayanidhi went into ecstasy. He went into such ecstasy that he was ripping off his opulent clothing, destroying all the furniture. The spittoon full of betel nut juice was flying in the air. And then Gadadhar Pandit could understand what a great soul he was. He went into ecstasy, actually, and became silent. Then Gadadhar Pandit understood. So this is one pastime of Pundarik Vijayanidhi, where someone was in a position of actually potentially committing offenses towards him. The next pastime is the story of this wonderful story of now I've forgotten the name, Odanashasti, where Lord Jagannath is offered a starched garment. And at this point in time, Pundarik Vijayanidhi was living very close to Lord Chaitanya in Puri. His best friend was Swarup Damodar. And the festival took place. Lord Jagannath was offered the starched garment and so many wonderful opulences and preparations and everything. And the devotees celebrated. And after the celebration, Swarup Damodar and Pundarik Vijayanidhi stayed together, revealing to each other their hearts and minds. Very intimately, it says in Chaitanya Bhagavatam. And Pundarik Vijayanidhi, he had a problem with the starched garment. He said, how is it that they're offering starched garment to the Lord? This is considered contaminated when the garment is starched. It should not be. So Damodar explained that actually this is a pastime, and therefore it's become the ritual for, since time immemorial. So there's no offense. So then Pundarik Vijayanidhi said, well, that may be, but what about the Brahmins and the pujaris? They're Brahmins. They shouldn't be touching a starched garment before touching the Lord because they'll be contaminated. Do they think that there's some kind of special incarnation of Brahman that they're not going to become contaminated? So he was thinking like this. And eventually they separated. They each went to their residences. And that night, Pundarik Vijayanidhi had a dream. And in that dream, Lord Jagannath and Lord Balaram came to him and started slapping him on the face. And they didn't just slap him on the face. They gave him instruction. Pundarik Vijayanidhi said, "O Krishna, save me. Kindly forgive my offenses. O Lord, for what offense am I being punished?" The Lord replied, "There is no end to your offenses. Just like me, my servitors do not belong to any caste, and knowing all this, you have taken up residence here. But if you at all wish to engage in splitting hairs about rituals and proper practices, you had best return to your previous place and do so there. I have fixed all the customs to be followed in these festivals, and now you have criticized my servitors and these performances by finding fault with my dressing in starched clothes." So, Pundarik Vijayanidhi, being a great devotee, when he woke up from his dream and he felt his swollen cheeks, he was in ecstasy. He was in ecstasy because he had been chastised personally by the Lord. So, Pundarik Vijayanidhi, who was actually King Vrishabhanu in the pastimes of Lord Krishna, is giving very interesting instructions here regarding the, criticizing devotees. sometimes we all do it. We fall into that. We find some little fault in a devotee. But this festival of Odana Shasti is teaching us, and Pundarik Vijayanidhi, that we have to be very, very careful of that. So, if there are, I'm sure that someone here could, oh good, someone is saving me. I think, I can't hear, my hearing is bad. I think the mic is coming.
Like one of our god sisters went to Srila Prabhupada and said, Prabhupada, how could Lord Jagannath slap? Pundarik Vijayanidhi doesn't have hands. So Prabhupada, he went like this. He said he went like this.
That's a wonderful story. It's probably why his cheeks were so swollen. Any other questions or comments? Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, thank you.
Haribol.
I wanted to ask you about your first visit to Henry Street.
Yes.
How did you know to go there? Did someone give you an invitation?
Oh my goodness. How did I know to go there? Actually, like I said at the beginning, I had chanted with the devotees in 1967 in Tompkins Square Park. And the devotees were very much part of the scene in those days. And I remember actually also one time going to 26 2nd Avenue and the devotees, when we got there, the devotees were leaving to go to Washington Square Park and have Harinam. So we kind of went along. And then a few other times I went to the temple. And actually one time I went to Henry Street. I don't know how I knew it was there. Oh yes, I remember. It had been on 2nd Avenue further down, and we went there, I think for Prasadam, and it wasn't there anymore, and someone said, oh, they've moved to Henry Street in Brooklyn. So we went, and actually it was quite an amazing event for me when I remember it as a devotee, although at the time I thought it was very strange. The devotees were just moving into the temple, and there was a lot of construction going on. It was kind of a big mess. And the front door was locked. You couldn't get in by the front door because they were doing work. So we had to come in by the back door, which was the boot room for the devotees. And obviously we weren't devotees. We walked in, in our hippie clothes. And immediately as I walked in, Kirtiraj Prabhu handed me a broom and said, here, sweep the boot room. And I thought, this is a very strange place where they greet guests by handing them a broom, telling them to sweep the boot room. But actually that was probably pretty much the beginning of my devotional service. I swept the boot room, So that's how I knew where the Henry Street Temple was. Even though I was in a fog. And actually, the person that I was with, my husband at the time, he brought me to the temple. I was actually in a pretty bad state, and he just said, look, we're going to the Krishna temple. I've been going there for the past few days. Today we're going. I said, okay, we'll go. And I went, and by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, I somehow or other stayed at that time. Any other questions or comments? Yes? Oh.
Hare Krishna.
Haribo.
Thank you for your nice class. I was thinking in relation to a previous point about, you were talking about that people fighting to stay alive, like Gajendra was fighting to stay alive, and it's generally, people get cancer or something, and it's like, this. And then I was reading last night in Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 13, in relation to Dhritarashtra, and Vidura instructing him to leave, get out immediately. And Prabhupada writes in a purport there that this urge to stay alive is an indication that we are actually eternal beings. That death is a foreign thing for us, and that's why we fear change of body, and we'll do anything to stay alive, because that's our nature. So I was thinking, then if we look in this pastime of Gajendra, it's like he's fighting to stay alive and fighting, and that whole fight is such a suffering condition for him. And then when he finally, leaves his body, let's say, and goes, then it's like a celebration. So I was thinking, well, is it really worth it? Is this fight worth it, or should we just, let it go? Because devotees, let's say, if they were getting older or disease or something, and then, we put a lot of effort into, medical treatment and diets and exercise and all these things to just stay alive. So, is it worth it, or why should we prolong our agony? Why don't we just, take the opportunity and go?
It's a very loaded question. Is it worth it? Well, of course. For a materialist, there are people today who believe in euthanasia. They've come to the conclusion that all that suffering is not worth it, it's torture. I should just be allowed to end my life now when I want to, because it's not worth it. But in that kind of situation, the person is prematurely ending their purification in that body, whatever karma they are destined to incur in that body, they are cutting short prematurely. So this is of course inauspicious and not conducive to further advancement, if that's going to be there. And eventually it probably will be there, because we're all destined to go back home, back to Godhead. For a devotee, yes, we should. We should maintain this body so that we can serve Krishna nicely. We don't have to worry about when is the appropriate time to leave our body. I'm a homeopath, and I'm always involved in helping people preserve their, maintain life. So is it worth it? Maybe it wouldn't be worth it. Maybe we should just let the body disintegrate and die when we become sick. The only way it becomes worth it is in relationship to Krishna, in relationship to service. So we pray to Krishna, do you want me to continue this service? And in some way or other, Krishna will answer that prayer, and we should continue to maintain this body as long as there is service that we can do. Srila Prabhupada gave us that example before he left. He did whatever he had to do to maintain his body for years. I mean, he had a heart attack on the boat, on the way to beginning really beginning his service to his spiritual master. And he maintained his body. He did whatever he had to. But then ultimately, at the end, when it became obvious that there was no more service, that was it. He stopped eating. He just let the body go. So I don't think there can be a cut and dry answer. I think, each devotee has to decide and Krishna will decide also. Krishna will show. I hope I answered that correctly. If there's anybody else who can.
There's a couple of thoughts. Because there was one devotee named Nirnasha who lived in Dallas, and he had leukemia. And he was very, very sick and very thin, and he could hardly do anything except sit and chant in the temple room. And but it was a long time ago. It was like in '75, I think. And his parents were coming to the temple and kind of demanding that the devotees encourage him to go take chemotherapy or something. Cancer cures were a lot less developed then than they are now. And he was also very advanced in his illness. And so Prabhupada came, and the devotee someone went to Prabhupada and said, the parents are saying that the doctors, they say that they can give him extended life. And then Prabhupada said, what is the use? He said, they said they could give him a natural life. They could give him a natural life for a few more months. Prabhupada said, natural life is life without death. He said, can they give him life without death? He said, what is the use of his life? Just like the trees, they're standing for 500 years, but they can't do anything. He can't do anything. Therefore, he should just prepare. Better he just sit and chant and prepare to go back to Godhead. So that was Prabhupada. It was very similar to what you said, that if you can't serve, then you just let your body go. That's actually the traditional Vedic system, is that when you can't do anything, then you just chant Hare Krishna. But Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, he gives the example in his discussion of the Anyabhilasita Sunyam verse that, there's other things that are mentioned that we should give up. It says other things. But he specifically says that the propensity to prolong one's life, the inclination to try to save oneself, is so natural and so inherent in the living entity, as she was saying, that it's not even considered an impediment to bhakti. Like sometimes you get into other things, renunciation or whatever, and it becomes an impediment to bhakti. But the inclination to stay alive is an automatic thing, and it's not really considered an impediment to bhakti. So we have that inclination, we just have to use it in Krishna's service. Just a couple of thoughts. Hare Krishna.
Jai. Thank you. I saw his hand first. Yes, Prabhu?
If somebody is terminally ill, then I think he should prepare his best to chant and hear.
I'm sorry, I'm not really hearing.
Hare Krishna. If somebody is terminally ill, then I think he should start to prepare by chanting and by reading, and other devotees would give him sangha. But like Prabhupada, he was not terminally ill, but he was ill. So he was saying he wanted his disciples to pray for him that he hasn't served his spiritual master, and so Krishna should give him a chance, and Krishna did a lot of chances. And sometimes in ISKCON, some devotees think that because in ISKCON one cannot compromise the principles of ISKCON, they had better gone out and look for a proper habitat or environment wherein they can do it. But in ISKCON they cannot do it, so it's like something similar line. They can go out and do that, prepare for that, but not in ISKCON, because ISKCON is one only institution which permits one to practice pure devotional service. And I don't think it is there in any other societies or institutions. And Lord Lakshman was given this opportunity to do Prayavrata, I think, because when he came to know about his time, he went to the river Sarayu and then meditated on Lord Rama and then started to prepare for his ultimate. So, and then Prabhupada said that to practice Krishna consciousness, we have to be strong, we have to be enthusiastic, we have to not just humble, we have to be materially also very equipped, very focused, very sharp. This I have been reading from the chapters of Ajamila, where Prabhupada said was listed 6 things: intelligence, wisdom, material, intellectual strength, mental strength, all these things. And also from the instructions to the civilized human beings, we get a lot of instructions from there also. This is my humble Hare Krishna.
Jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.